Hey, and welcome back to Connected and Confident with Melissa J. Scott. It's been a little while since I've made one of these, so bear with me while I find my grounding again. Oh, you do this in video world.
Oh.
Yeah. Except our sound's connected.
Have to learn that.
I know. I started this podcast and it was just called Connected back then, I think about 3 years ago. And about 18 months ago, I took a little break from making any of these, which is really interesting. I was going through a really big time in my life. Like I just had turned 50. I was really questioning a whole lot of pretty much every aspect of my life. I was questioning the relationships I was in. I think a lot of you who know me know that 5 years ago my husband passed away really suddenly, and it threw me into a lot of turmoil, like as it would, but a lot of personal turmoil as to just really understanding, well, who am I? You know, if I'm not a wife anymore and have somebody to love in my life, who am I? So I did what a lot of people do, is I got busy trying to find another partner, trying to find somebody else to love, rather than go within and think, well, maybe it's just time to actually just love myself and spend some time with myself and focus on that. So, you know, that's something that was a really big discovery for me. Plus my boys, I've got 3 sons. They've always been dependent on me, but they were getting older now. Like my youngest just turned 18, so I didn't have them so much in my life needing me as much anymore. I'd been running my business for, at that time, 20 plus years, and I was just getting really stale in it. It was all just feeling very same. I was branching more into marketing coaching, which is kind of like, and strategies, which is where my sweet spot is now, something that I'm really passionate about. But I found that even in that, I was hitting a lot of stumbling blocks with some clients because they were turning up and we were doing the process, we were putting the strategies together. But then when it came to actually doing the work and actually implementing it, they were running for the hills. Not everybody, but some of them. And I sort of thought, well, I authentically didn't know how to actually take them from this step, from here, point A to point B, because I could see through my own personal development work that what was holding them back was a whole lot of blocks and stories and things that were giving them self-limiting beliefs, but I didn't know how to articulate with them, and I especially didn't know how to help them through that stage. So I really just put the brakes on everything and went off and continued on my own personal development journey, as well as gearing myself up with the skills that I needed to help them as best as I could in getting through their blocks and their stories and their self-limiting beliefs, and getting to the other side of where they actually felt like they could create content with great confidence. They could put their own opinions forward to their audiences and not panic at the first sign of somebody giving any pushback, because that is definitely what will happen. If you start marketing and branding your business through your personal brand, people are going to give you pushback, and people are going to comment and make you feel uncomfortable, and that's just a test from the universe to see if you're ready for this and if you've got what it takes. And you need to be really solid in your self-confidence and your self-belief that you actually do have that to make it happen. And so I went off and learnt, it's called the spiral technique, and it's a form of muscle testing and like a blend of NLP, which is neuro-linguistics programming, which I've also become an advisor in that as well. So I really feel like now I have all the skills that I needed, because to me, one of my highest values is authenticity. So if I can't authentically help somebody get from here to here, like I had the skills and the knowledge of what they should do to build their business and build their marketing and build audiences. But if something was holding them back, at that point in time, I didn't have the skill set. So that's kind of what I've been doing for 18 months. And I also went on this massive journey for myself, which was amazing, of doing stuff for me again, because I made quite a humbling discovery along the way that I'm quite codependent in my nature, which makes me an amazing nurturer and connector, and that's what I'm really passionate about. But I was always looking to do this for other people, and I was always looking for external validation from people. And I think a lot of business owners, typically people in the service industry, we're really guilty of this. You know, it's a great industry for codependent type people to fall into, because our sole purpose for existing is helping other people. But if we're not helping ourselves along the way, or remembering, or setting boundaries, or remembering that we also have to help ourselves, then it's fraught with danger for us, because the first sign of pushback, like I said before, from people, your audience or something, if you're doing something different on social media, or if you're actually standing out or speaking up about something, we panic because we look for all of our self-validation from external sources, which is not cool. So anyway, that was one of my biggest discoveries in the past 18 months. I've been working really, really diligently on fixing that because, you know, when I fix that and fix myself, I can also impart that information onto other clients who I see are doing exactly the same thing, because we need to fill up our own cups if we want to be able to actually help people as best as we can, which as a codependent person, that is how we identify. We get our self-worth from how we're able to help others. And it's a great trait. It's a beautiful trait, but we need to fill up our own cup to be able to do that and give that as best as we can. So other things I've been up to over the past 18 months, which has been amazing, was I joined a band. I used to be a singer many, like 30 plus years ago. And really interestingly, I got into a codependent relationship at a young age because I didn't believe that I could be on my own or succeed on my own. And I got into a codependent relationship, and I literally lost my voice, and I lost the ability to be able to sing at the age of 21, which was heartbreaking for me at that time, because I actually identified as a singer. I thought I was going to be a singer in my life. I thought that was going to be my career path. And so then I went on a completely different career path. I went to uni. I studied branding and design and marketing, which is what I've fallen into now, which has been a wonderful thing. But then, you know, just when I was turning 50, I thought I'm going to go back into singing, because I'd been doing all this self-discovery work and got my voice back and understood about throat chakras and how it had all been blocked and choked up, literally, how I'd lost my ability to speak up for myself. So when I'd started working on those aspects and then found my voice, literally, and found my ability to speak up for myself, I was able to, I realized I could sing again, which was pretty amazing. So anyway, I joined a covers band and called Evolution Rock, and have been singing in that for the past year, which has been amazing and one of the most liberating things to do. I get back up on stages, I sing to hundreds of people, sometimes 10 people, sometimes hundreds of people, and I really am in my happy place up on that stage performing. I also took up bodybuilding, which is pretty crazy. I started that nearly 2 years ago, and that was just off a whim. I wanted to do something to commemorate my 50th birthday. I was 49 at the time when I was thinking of it, and I thought, I'm going to run a marathon, and I'm going to go to Europe, and I'm going to run this marathon, and it's going to be amazing, and that's how I'm going to commemorate my 50th birthday, because I really wasn't enjoying the idea of turning 50. Anyway, I soon, after I went for a few runs, I've already done a half marathon 5 years ago, and that's 21 kilometres. The full marathon is 42 kilometres, and that is a whole different ball game. And I realized that my body was not going to carry me for those 42 kilometers. So I changed tactic. I had a friend that I'd seen online that was doing bodybuilding, and I got involved with that. I found out who her coach was, approached her coach. Her name's Emma Bowman. She's in Adelaide, and I just took up learning how to do body sculpting, bodybuilding remotely. And I just finished my first competition. I did really well, and it's been one of the most empowering, most amazing things I have done for myself in my entire life. I haven't really ever, like I said before, I was quite codependent. I've done a lot of things. I've looked very busy, but it's always been outwardly helping other people, outwardly doing it for other people. When I was younger, I was a dancer, and I used to do that to try to get the attention of my parents. I was good at it. I didn't do it because it gave me a lot of self-pleasure. I really did it and excelled at it because it made me feel loved, because it made my family happy when I did it. They're very proud of me. And so I learned from a very young age that to impress people was how to win love. So this was the first time with the body sculpting, was that I actually was just doing this for me. Nobody gave a rat's if I went to the gym and started body sculpting, lifting weights, building up, eating so much that I was building up all the right kind of muscle and then stripping it all down to get stage ready. Nobody cared if I was doing it or not. This was 100% for me. So it was one of the best things I've ever done in my entire life. And it's so crazy that I did it, started at 49 doing something for myself. So anyway, what I wanted to share with you today is it's been a really big, wild time. And I think this happens to people in the middle of their life, I believe, because I became less busy. Like, my husband had passed away. I'd had a couple of very tumultuous relationships that weren't really great for me or great for my self-esteem, but I sure as shit learned a lot about myself in the process. I've done a lot of personal development work, from kinesiology through to speaking therapy, through to I became a tantra practitioner, learned how to meditate. Oh my goodness, I had adrenal burnout at one stage from one of the bad relationships I was in. I've just done so much work on myself and really discovering how to authentically provide the services that I want to give to clients, and merging the business with the personal, because I think that's what a lot of the problems are with when we get business coaching, or in my case it's marketing coaching, is I can teach you all the skills in the world about how to make a video, how to do a podcast, how to write a great sales copy page for your website, how to put on a webinar. But if you have self-limiting beliefs in yourself and you actually just can't physically show up and do that, and you will create every single self-sabotage under the planet to avoid doing that and not be real about it and not have that self-awareness that that's actually what's going on for you. It doesn't matter what skills I give you. It doesn't matter how much money you throw at it, until I can help you and provide you with clearing those blocks that you have about doing those actions that you need to do and creating content to build a bigger audience. Until you work on those blocks and understand who you are and why it is in the stories you tell yourself that limit you from doing that, it's never going to change. And so now I am really positioned in a beautiful place authentically to be able to provide the service both professionally of the skills of how to create that content and why you should be creating that content, and how you can get past yourself and your self-limiting beliefs and create that content. Because when you actually create a brand that is 100% authentically you, you are the most magnetic you are ever going to be to your audience. And that they are the people that are doing really well in the online world. When you see them and you think, well, why are they doing better than this other person or better than me? It's because they, I believe, have the self-belief, the self-confidence, and the self-awareness to know that what they are doing, they 100% believe, and there are no blocks or stories holding them back from fulfilling their purpose in life, which is to help that audience. So in no particular order, I want to run through quite a few of the points that I've learned over the past, I'd say 5 years since Steve died, with all of the personal development work that I've been doing, but really the intense stuff I've been learning in the past 18 months. And the first thing is that never think that what is happening to you is a coincidence. Too often people think that life is just happening, it's just this willy-nilly series of events, but it really isn't. The universe or the source or God, life source, energy, whatever you want to call it, really is all just the same thing. That's a topic for another day. It is working with you, not against you. It's working for you to give you the lessons and put you in situations where you are learning what you need to learn to be able to progress into life further and hopefully obtain that inner peace, that inner love, what it is that you're searching for, the answers. But if we keep avoiding and pushing and blocking and not just taking a helicopter view above our life and really look at what's going on and developing self-awareness, it's just going to keep going around and around and around and again in a cycle until you really get the message. So for me, using an example of that is I've been codependent since the day I was born. And it doesn't mean that I'm hopeless. Some codependents are some of the most confident, outwardly confident and successful people you're ever going to know. But there's something missing from inside. And it's the fact that we need to get validation from external sources, which drives us to succeed. And I say succeed, with the inverted commas around it. what my lesson has been. And I mean, the universe took extreme steps, really. It took my husband away from me through death. I've been through a divorce before then, and then I went through, I was with Steve for 8 years, and then he died. And then I still didn't get the message that it was time for me to be on my own, time for me to live for myself, time for me to grow as an individual. I took measures to try and find another partner as soon as I could kind of physically and emotionally handle it, because my inner belief was that I was nobody unless I had somebody to love. And this is so important that you know this stuff about yourself, because the way we do one thing is the way we do everything in life. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, how does this even relate to your business? It totally relates to your business, because if you're always doing something in your business that is to get the approval of somebody else, be it your clients or your team members, your audience, whoever it is, you aren't driving your own ship. You're not charting your own course. You are always worried and affected by what other people are going to say, think, and feel about you. And so you are not authentically 100% yourself, and you're always going to get held up. So that could be the reason why you're not pressing record on a video camera. That could be the reason why you stop or don't even start creating a podcast. All these things, because when you're looking for external validation, this is just using my example as an example. When I was looking for external validation, I was always so concerned. I was always second guessing myself with everything and the content I was putting out, and it was such a struggle. And in the end, I would stop doing it, because at one point in time, I had a partner who was so completely against some of the things that I would do or say, and put out there publicly, that I just stopped doing it, because I just couldn't stand to be met with their disapproval anymore. And that completely affects your business and the service that you put out there. So when I finally learned, because I kept just getting put in different situations through life of where it was pretty obvious that I had this codependent nature, when I finally got the lesson and finally took steps only this year, to turn it around and change it, have I really found this inner peace and this self-awareness that I really love and enjoy, that is helping me to be far more authentic and gain the knowledge and the expertise that I want to be able to deliver the service that I really want. And I believe it's the complete difference between running an okay business and creating a product and a brand that is absolutely going to soar and take off. And that leads really nicely into my second point, is that life begins for you when you learn how to love yourself. Like, self-love is the key. When you stop looking for validation from external sources and you truly find peace within yourself, and you know that you are enough and that there's nothing else or nobody else in your life that needs to complete you, that you are it, I believe that is when life does take off for you, and you can make decisions 100% purely around what is the best for you and the best for everybody around you, and not what you need to feel good, not what you need to feel validated, because you already feel those things. You already feel like you are enough from within, and you aren't looking for that validation from somebody else. It also means that you aren't afraid to voice your real opinion when it comes to marketing your brand or showing up in your own personal brand. You have the confidence, this deep confidence from within your gut to just be who you are, quietly confident, and you can share your experiences online, which is what people crave for. And people can really feel when something's authentic and when something's kind of put on. So you can share the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's okay. You're okay with it. Like, an example of this is, while I've been doing my body sculpting training for the past 2 years, I never once put up one photo of myself in that was an unflattering shot, which is me while I was building my body. And even at the end, I thought, how am I going to put up photos of myself in a bikini? Because that's the end of the day. At the end of the day, I stand on a stage in a show bikini, in flashy heels, big hair, brown skin. How am I going to put that up? Because I knew I was sculpting myself, so I was looking good. I was looking very fit. I was fitting all the criteria. But I thought, earlier in the piece, I just thought, how am I going to cope with any criticism? Because I'm a 51-year-old woman. There will be people that laugh. There will be people that think I'm on myself. There will be people that criticize me. And it's so amazing, as time has gone by on this journey that I've really been taking this past 18 months, I truly started to care less and less, so that when the other day when I actually did put those photos up, the competition ended, I selected the photos, I put them up. I was okay. I wasn't rushing and checking my Facebook status every 5 minutes and looking for any negativity or looking to see if somebody had said something half condescending. And a couple of people said some jokey things, and I looked in my heart and I felt fine. Like, I know somebody rang up my partner and made a comment to him, you know, it was a bit negative, and I was okay with it, because I understand they're just coming from a place that they obviously just felt really confused, and really it triggered them in some way to see me standing there in a bikini looking really confident and being happy, and all they could sort of say about it was, wow, she just looks really skinny. And we all know skinny is not a compliment. So you know what, it's okay. I really felt peace, and for the first time I really felt like, yeah, this is what self-love looks like. I didn't need that person's approval. This person's close to me. I don't need their approval. It's okay. It's really okay. They don't get it. They don't understand it. That's cool, because I don't understand half the things that they do, and I choose not to judge them. And so self-love is such an amazing place to be, and such an amazing thing to have for yourself. When I talk to my clients about branding around their personal persona and really sharing who they are and what they do, this is what I'm talking about. And when you have that feeling of self-love, it feels completely possible, and you don't care about the knockers, because there will be knockers, because you will trigger. Just having confidence can trigger people, and it's okay, because you really appreciate it. It's just their journey, it's their story. You don't need to subject yourself to it. You certainly don't need to argue with anybody about it. And at the end of the day, it's all just okay. It really is. The third thing I wanted to share with you is that there is an absolute magic in getting to really know who you are. And I take my clients on a really great process when we look at their personal branding and marketing their business, where we look at your values and your very purpose for why you do what you do, your why and your purpose and your mission. And when you can really passionately look within and understand what it is that drives you in your business, but not just your business, because if you're a business owner, there's every chance that this is driving you in your personal life too. You know, it's not just a business here and personal here, they're merged together. And when you have that innate understanding of what it is that really, really drives you, you can pretty much do anything in your business, because you are reminded constantly of the people that you are helping and why it is that you do what you do. So for me, through NLP, I recently discovered, I always thought that my highest value was connection, which it is. I love to connect with people. But I actually uncovered through deeper questioning, and that's the whole beauty of NLP, which I take with clients through, is it's much deeper. It's a really, really deep way of going inward and getting the information out of you without you realizing from your subconscious. For me, my biggest difference, and this is why I post so much online and why I share so much of my journey, is that what lights me up and fires me up is that I really love changing lives. Transforming lives is what floats my boat. And what I've always been doing as a codependent, and I've been sort of doing it one-on-one with the people that I love. And I realize that my business is the best vehicle, the best tool to transform and change lives through what I know, through helping people get past their self-limiting beliefs and all their stories and all their junk, and actually marketing their business and through their personal brand with confidence and self-assurance and from the most authentic place. That's when true magic happens. So the power of being real and going back to the self-love and really knowing where you're coming from is one of the most powerful things you're ever going to do for your business. And that requires you from stopping being so busy in your business and taking this time to reflect. But the power of actually getting to the core of who you are and your values and your purpose and your mission is pure magic. So number 4 that I discovered is that we are the only thing that is holding us back. We are infinite potential. We really are. I mean, how can you have some people so successful in the world that create the most amazing things, the most amazing inventions, or create the most engaging groups, you know, and run all of these companies and lead so many people? Why can they do that? And another person like ourselves doesn't believe that we can do that. And it all just comes down to self-belief. We create the blocks that hold us back, and they usually come from our childhood. They're usually very, very unconscious, and they're deep held beliefs inside of us. And working with a skilled practitioner who does NLP and the energy unblocking really is a great way to start to help you to unravel all of this. Plus with your own self-awareness and your own self-help practices. And I have a lot of things that have helped me along the way. Meditation has been astonishing for me. Journaling has been a wonderful way for me, daily journaling about how to get all that muck out of myself and onto paper and then really see it clearly. Visualizing, really visualizing myself and future projecting and seeing myself and feeling my energy into what I think that I'm fully capable of and what I can do in the world. Definitely the energy healing and unblocking the energy that's trapped in our body through the kinesiology practices. And speaking therapy has helped a lot too. Moving my body, yoga, any kind of physical movement and keeping in great shape that way. All of these things have really helped through time to be able to clear these stories and blocks that are holding us back and move through it and to really see the possibilities of what we can achieve in our life. And it's never ever finished. That's probably the most important thing I want to say. We never get there. Personal development is beautiful. You never get to the end destination. It always keeps unfolding. It always keeps unraveling, and there's more to learn. And it's exciting. It's not like, oh God, I thought I figured all that out. When I found out, I really figured out I was codependent. It's like, oh, damn it. It's like, okay, great. I'm really, really lucky to have this information, and I'm going to do something with this information now, and I'm going to create new relationships and change relationships where I was codependent in the past and actually change them now and be somebody different. So it's an opportunity for growth all the time and having a beautiful open mindset to welcome in that growth. Number 5, we are meant to coexist with other people. I got confused once that I thought self-love was all about that you didn't need other people. So in itself, I was fearful of it. But that's not the case. We are animals that innately need other animals for our survival. That's how it's always been since caveman times. And so we are programmed that way, even now in Western society when we can live quite sufficiently. And as a woman, I have always supported myself. I used to support my husbands. I've supported my children. But I still innately am a feminine woman with a feminine energy that wants a masculine energy around me. That isn't my own masculine energy. I prefer to have a male masculine energy around me as a partner. And I prefer to have tribes of people that are supportive around me. So it's very important that we consciously choose who's in our tribe and we consciously look for the people that support us, lift us up, and are there for us in every capacity. And that's where we focus our energy and our attention if we want to be more successful in life and have a happier life. I learned a lot about the two base emotions that we have. One's fear, and the opposite of fear is love. And that every other emotion that there is on the planet, thousands of them, are either just a derivative of love or fear. And I learned that most people, including myself, have been living in fear for the longest time. So when it comes to marketing and branding your business, the fear was always about not being accepted, about showing off. When I put up the pictures of myself in my body sculpting competition, it was, she's showing off. Who does she think she is? Not being accepted. That was some of the feedback I got from people, was that you're alienating people that don't have a physique like that at your age. You're making them feel bad about yourself. I once had a girlfriend who I cared a lot about who once said to me, it was after Steve died, and I was coping really well. It looked like I was coping really well. I mean, people don't see what goes on behind closed doors. It's no one's business. And she said to me, Melissa, you make people feel bad about themselves because you do so well. And I thought, wow. Isn't that a shame that that's how she interpreted somebody who was working on themselves and learning to cope and learning how to survive through their challenging times. Listen to that, how it brings up emotions in me. That's a trigger too. You can hear that when my voice starts to crack and I get a cough. That's like it's an emotion, it's a block. It's still energy that's moving through me because that affected me so deeply, her negative opinion of me. But this is when you have to take that helicopter view above yourself and look down and just say, I see that she's operating from fear. I see that she is feeling uncomfortable about something within herself, and I've triggered that. Me coping is triggering her, and that is her story. And the way that I can respond, I had two choices: get pissed off and tell her, oh my God, how fucking dare you speak to me like that? You don't see me crying at home at night by myself. You don't see me freaking out about how am I going to survive? How am I going to pay the next bill? Instead, I went from a place of love, because there's only fear or love, and I just sort of felt compassion for her. And I thought to myself, this all happens in a split second, I wonder what sort of happened in her life for her to feel so bad about herself that she would view me in that way and view me coping so as such a negative towards her, personalizing and making it about herself. And I just thought, I'm just going to send her love and be compassionate and continue being me. So huge learning is that there's just two emotions in this world, fear and love, and most people come from fear. And often what's holding you back in your business and in your life is just a fear of not being accepted, a fear of not fitting in. Number 7, I find this a lot with clients, and I found this in myself too. If you ask somebody, what do you actually want in life? That, they might say, oh, I want a new car, I want to go on more holidays. It's, no. Not the tangible stuff. What do you want? What are your goals? What are your dreams? What would you want for your business? What would you want for your relationships? What do you want for your children? What do you want for you? And you're not allowed to just say happiness. Like, it's really, well, what does happiness look like for you? What brings you happiness? What is it that you need? How do you set goals if you don't even actually know what you want? So there's a lot of time that you can spend with yourself to uncover what you want, because then when you actually know what you want, you're able to take the steps. And this includes marketing in your business. You can take the steps and you can find the courage to do the things that you might not necessarily be able to do, such as present to large groups of people, or write a book, or create your own podcast to become a thought leader in your industry, because you actually want to be recognized as somebody in your industry, with a valued opinion. You can find the courage and the reason and the purpose and the mission behind these things when you actually understand what it is that you want. Number 8, I touched on this before, is I learned how to meditate. And I think it literally saved my sanity. I was in a really ordinary relationship after Steve died, with a man that really love bombed me to start with and really made me feel amazing. He loved my neediness and my vulnerability. And within months, though, that really turned into a very different kind of relationship where there was really not much that I could do right. He really stripped my self-esteem. He really made me feel not worthy, and that I was lucky to have his love, and that he was teaching me how to be a better person, because on my own, I didn't have a clue how to be a better person. And because I was a codependent nature, I believe the universe sent me that relationship to really kick me up the arse and say, girl, you don't need this. But, it took me a few years to really get myself out of that situation, and I'm really grateful for the learnings. Wasn't grateful at the time for the experience, and I gave myself a really bad case of adrenal burnout, where it's called HPA axis dysfunction, where a whole lot of hormones in my body were misfiring and not doing well. I was sending adrenaline through my body at all times of the day, and it was exhausting. I put on weight. I couldn't sleep. I felt like a nervous wreck. I could always feel my heart fluttering. It's a horrible feeling. And I went to a doctor, and she said, this is caused from stress, extreme stress. And so I put myself through a whole regime of setting a routine, getting to sleep early at night. I went and did a Tantra course, which actually was a mind-blowing experience. It was really a fantastic way to connect the mind and the body together, and that it's all connected. And I learned how to meditate from the monks down at Wollongong in the Buddhist temple. And it was one of the best things I ever learned, how to calm, slow down the brain. And that's where I learned how to go above myself in that helicopter stage that I was talking about, and look down and see things for what they truly are, but from a calm state, not from a state of when I'm in it, but more that when I'm outside of it. And that is a great way to develop self-awareness. So number 9, this links in really nicely. I learned how to respect my body and not abuse my body, because putting myself through that extreme stressful situation and not letting myself get out of it because I didn't know how to. And let's face it, a lot of people in life, in business, in relationships are living with extreme stress and accepting situations that aren't good for themselves because they don't know how to get out of it, because they don't love themselves enough to. They don't know how to ask for what they really want, and they don't know what they really want, so they just keep living in what they have. And we live in a materialistic society, so we're talking about assets here. We're talking about houses and lifestyles. And it's hard. I've done this. I did this 12 years ago after 20 years of marriage, uplifting your family and taking them out of a cushy situation and going into an unknown situation where you have to, you're the person who just broke that entire family up to get yourself out of that situation, because you know that that situation is killing your soul. And there are many situations like that, and people opt for that. So I have learned over the past 5 years, but particularly in the last 18 months, is that you need to look after your body, because it's only one body that you have. Now, my husband died at, he was 48 years old when he died. It was crazy that he should die of a massive heart attack. He was overweight, but he wasn't. There's plenty more people more overweight than him. You know, like, we need to look after our bodies. When I got my adrenal burnout diagnosis, that was the rudest shock to me, because I was looking down the barrel. I said to the doctor, I said, well, what happens if I don't fix this? And she said, well, you'll get an autoimmune disease and then you'll really be stuffed. You'll really be an unwell person for the rest of your life. And I just thought, well, that's completely unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. So I totally changed my life. Really, have never been much of a drinker, but really cut down on drinking. Really looked at the food I was eating. Looked at my sleep cycles, because I always had pretty ordinary sleep cycles. I was a real late to bed type person. Started going to bed earlier, and I started exercising again. Started working out physically and taking great care of myself, taking good supplements, getting blood tests so I understood what my body was deficient in, and then replacing them with supplements. And looking after my emotional state, went and got kinesiology, started unblocking all of the physical blocks that I have in my body, because so often the symptoms that we are projecting are actually just, it's trapped energy, trapped trauma inside of our muscles and our bones and our bodies and our cells that needs to come out some way. So this is what I learned through this spiral process, is how to actually unblock and unlock a lot of that trapped trauma, which is, it's affecting our bodies, but it's also affecting our mental health. So, you know, if you're wondering why it is you can't do certain things in your business that are just eluding you, even though you know better, it's probably just trapped energy from a past experience that you're hanging on to, that has formed a belief in you that is so subconscious, you don't even know how to remove it mentally, and you need help energetically to have it removed. Number 10, this is a beautiful one. I learned that taking care of myself didn't mean that I was selfish. Selfish is one of, particularly as a woman, if you're called selfish, you can get pretty upset. It's really considered quite a put down. But I learned that it's not selfish if you look after yourself and you prioritize yourself. You can't help and serve and look after all the people in your life that you want to, whether it's your family or your friends, your team members, or a really massive audience. If you don't look after yourself first and put in the hard work for yourself first, you're never going to be able to help those people. So never let anybody tell you you're selfish when you say no to something, or when you prioritize fitness, or you prioritize meditating, or you prioritize sleep. You come first. Your health comes first, and it doesn't make you selfish. Number 11. I always knew this one, but I really know this one now. Financial gain, money, possessions, assets, these are all bloody awesome to have, but they are not the only measurement of success. You can have all those things and be a miserable, unwell, unhappy, unfulfilled person. For me, it's like the Tony Robbins thing that I did once when I went to one of his seminars, the circle of where there's all the different things on the axis where you've got, you know, finances, health, spirituality, relationships. There's a whole lot of other ones. Personal well-being. There's all sorts of ones that are around that. And then you go there and rate on a scale of out of 10 which one you are. And so some things come really naturally to you. You might be a 10, and other things you just like. So for finances, you could be unreal at finances, really wealthy, and you go, I'm a 10. But then you think, but my relationships, they're in the toilet. I'm a 2. And my health, not so great. I'm a 4. And so you go around this circle and then you draw each one of the little lines. What you really want to have is this beautiful curve of a wheel that will just roll properly. But what most people have is like really uneven spokes. And so for me, success now is having success in every aspect of my life, taking the traits of what I do really well in naturally and applying those similar traits across every aspect of my life. And you can't fluke this, I believe. I don't think people can just honestly be great at everything across every aspect of their life with no effort and no self-awareness and not putting in any work. This is why personal development work is so important, and self-awareness is so important, and self-love. So you can be working on every aspect of your life in every stage. So while we live in a society which celebrates wealth and celebrates monetary success, it's a big trap to fall into, and it is not the measure of true success and true happiness in life. Number 12, this really relates to me. You can reinvent yourself anytime you want. You don't have to stay on the same path if you're not happy. You can leave that relationship, leave that business, leave that family. Whatever it is that's not working for you, friendship bases, you have the power to leave that and seek out something better for yourself. But I feel like you need to do the work on yourself first from within, not always blame those external circumstances. I'm sure they contribute greatly to it, but make sure at the same time you are still working on yourself at the same time. But never feel like it's too late in life to reinvent yourself. Like, I'm the chick that joined a band when I was 50. I'm the chick that started bodybuilding at 49. I am quite sure that there's going to be many more things I can add to that into my 50s and 60s and 70s. It's become a really nice joke now with all my friends. They're like, well, what's next, Melissa? What, you've got a bucket list? Like, nobody's business. What's next? Who knows? Actually, I do know what's next. What's next for me is really, really building up this side of the business where I work with business owners, not just on the skill set, the marketing and the branding, which has always been my skill set, but really working holistically with you guys on your personal development and on who you are as a person, your soul work, working with you energetically and working with your mental state and uncovering what it is that makes you tick. And that is what I'm really passionate about. 13, I've kind of overlapped some of these, but learning the value of saying no, because when you say no to yourself, no, I've got that wrong. When you keep saying yes to others, you're saying no to yourself for something that you really want to do, because there's only so much time in the day, there's only so much space. So for me, when I was training for my body sculpting comp right up to it, the last 20 weeks got really demanding, and I put myself first. I would say no to lots of things. I'd say no to drinking alcohol with people. I would say no to parties. I would say no to accepting my beautiful partner used to bring me hot chocolates. And in the end, I said, I can't keep receiving these anymore. I love where you're coming from. They are my favorite thing, but I can't keep consuming these, So you have to say no. And you have to be cool with how they respond, because you come first. Number 14, you are responsible for your own happiness, your thoughts, your feelings. You get to create it. And happiness is a choice. I learned this when Steve died, is that every day, the first few weeks were just living hell, coming to terms with it, you're in a state of shock. But after that, I spent a lot of evenings listening to a lot of videos and reading and journaling and soul searching. And then I just came to the realization that I had two choices. I could never be happy ever again, or I could choose to be happy right now in this minute. Doesn't mean that I was happy with what had happened. It doesn't mean that I would ever have chosen for him to die. If he was still alive, we'd still be happily married and I'd have a completely different life, to be honest. But he did die. It was completely out of my control. The old expression, control the controllables. The one thing I could control were my emotions, and I chose happiness. And I really worked on gratitude like a mofo. Every day I would wake up in the morning and go through all the steps. In my mind, I would think, I couldn't let myself get out of bed until I thought of 10 things that I was grateful for. And it became really easy because there's always something to be grateful for. I had my beautiful children. I had a beautiful house over my head. I had a business. I had friends that were supporting me. I had a family that were, gathering around me. There were so many things to be grateful for. And you have to focus on that. You need to choose happiness in your life. I also learned that our self-talk is everything. The way we speak to ourselves sets us up for our entire life. It's really easy when you can catch yourself out in a moment where you've done something silly or forgetful and you go, God, I'm such a moron. I'm so stupid. Far out. I always do this. I'm just a fuck up. I'm so hopeless at this. I'm so bad at this. Can you not hear yourself saying this to yourself every day? And you consciously have to stop and control yourself when you do this. And this goes for this is why people don't make video. This is why people don't create webinars or have podcasts or speak in front of audiences. I'm no good at that. I'm bad at public speaking. I'm terrified of audiences. I look shit on camera. It just goes on and on and on, this hopeless self-talk, which is just putting us down. You wouldn't have any friends if you spoke to people the way that you speak to yourself, and yet you think nothing about speaking to yourself like this. So our self-talk begins with us. We have to consciously pull ourselves up every time we put ourselves down and turn that around, because it is only hurting us and stopping us, and it's reinforcing these stories that we tell ourselves and these blocks that we have in our life that's stopping us from fulfilling our potential. Number 16, I always thought that our emotions led us, but they don't. They're just like on a spin cycle. And so we can feel an overwhelming emotion about something that happens, whether it could be joy, but it could be disappointment or jealousy. Something will trigger us and it'll send us into a state. And it could invoke, it could be about somebody said you've got to do a Facebook Live, and you can instantly get fear around that. I can't do that. I can't do a Facebook Live. And you instantly go back in your mind to some time where you were put on the spot to speak and you were humiliated and you felt terrible about it. And then you go into this emotional cycle. And that's where people stay. People can stay in those emotional cycles for days and weeks and months. And it's all just a choice. You can stop that. That emotion is still real, but you can stop it and take the helicopter view above it, sit above it, and go get curious and understand, where does it come from? What's the old story? What's the self-limiting belief around that? And then you can debunk it, because in most cases it can all be debunked. It'd be like, I went through, when Steve died, I went through intense pain. And it was shock, because, we didn't know it was going to happen. And then I could create a story in my head about that. I will never get close to someone again. I will never love again, because I can't go through that pain again. I will never live through that pain again. But it's not true. I have the exact opposite opinion. I did live through that pain. I did come out the other end. And I know that I can pretty much live through anything. As horrible as it is, I can live through it. So it's really just turning it around and getting the outcome that you want with the story that you tell yourself. It's all about the self-talk. It's all about your past experiences and putting them where they go, where they deserve to be. A past experience deserves to be in the past, and it's respected, but it's in the past. It doesn't need to be at the forefront of all of your decision-making processes now. So when you apply that to your business and how you're doing in your business right now, how many decisions are you making based around your marketing and your branding and how you're showing up and your daily activities and your growth and who you're associating yourself with? How much of all of this is largely based on the past? So really having this self-awareness of where things come from is a great way to turn a disappointment or turn something negative that isn't going to serve you or work for you and put it on its ear and move forward productively. Number 17, I also learned that as humans, we are creative, emotional, expressive human beings. And we really just want to be heard and acknowledged and seen. And we want to be around people that make us feel this way. So really choose carefully how you're spending your time, and carve out time in your day to move your body, express yourself, whether it's through dance, through speech, through hanging out with friends, Tai Chi, yoga, walking in nature, running with a friend, playing a sport, sitting down and having a coffee, laughing like a full big belly laugh, listening to people, speaking to people. Carve out time in our day for these social interactions, because this is what feeds our soul. This is who we are as human beings. So our businesses are wonderful places where we can still get to express and create amazing things, but it's one part of what we do. We have to remember that there's a personal side to what we do as well, and to nurture and look after that. So then we can take the lessons learned and the love that we get and the energy we get from that and bring it into our business and let it feed it. So we are just beautiful creative souls, and we need to keep feeding that energy within us. Number 18. I learned this from my clients, that we'll do anything to feel safe. And it all comes back down to how we're viewing life, through fear or through love. But we see change, we see challenge, we see things that might be difficult for us because it doesn't come naturally, like presenting to an audience or like running a webinar. We see that as being really challenging and difficult. So we'll settle and not do that rather than challenge ourselves. And it's all about getting out of our comfort zones. And I'm going to do a fresh podcast completely about comfort zones in the future. But we really need to, as human beings, learn to be braver. And we don't have to go out and take a leap and just do the most crazy, wildest thing. It can just be little acts of bravery, things that just take 10 seconds of being brave. But we need to push our comfort zones and expand and not settle and accept less. Because when we accept less in one area of our life, it will trickle across into every area of our life where we accept less. And when you accept less, you are sending a massive message to yourself that you don't love yourself and that you're not worth it. Number 19, this is a hard lesson for me to learn. I learned patience. And when you make a decision or you have an aha moment or something comes to you that you finally figured out the meaning, you want it to happen really quickly. You want things to come along to you quickly, but sometimes it takes a little while for things to build. And I can liken this very much with the experience of marketing and branding a business, is that people will they might do a webinar and they'll put out a series, they might run a campaign and they'll put out a series of Facebook ads, and they just expect instantaneous results. They haven't done all the work. Things take time to build. Anything worthwhile takes a lot of time to build, particularly in marketing. It can take 17 to 20 touch points before somebody even remembers your name, let alone wants to buy from you. So you need consistency in your life. You need to keep showing up. You need to keep doing the action steps that it takes to be remembered, to make an impact, for people to see you and believe you. So I liken this back to when I was working out to get on stage. It took 2 years of building muscle. And look at me, I'm not a big muscly chick, but that's what it took for me to change my body shape and build muscle in areas of my body that has never had muscle before. It took 2 years of showing up daily to do that activity. And I haven't reached the end destination. I'll be doing this in 10 years' time, and I hope I'm still competing in 10 years' time. There is an over 60s category. And I'll be on stage and I'll be showing my form and how it's changed and how it's developed. It's an ongoing process, and patience is one of the greatest virtues you could ever learn. I've talked about this before, number 20. It's the power of self-belief. If you don't believe that it's possible for you, then I can guarantee you it's not going to happen. So self-belief that's a really personal go within kind of journey. But you need to really work on the stories and the limiting things that are holding you back and have awareness of those to change your self-belief. And we do a lot of this in the NLP process. Like we're like a movie, what's happening in our life, of all the memories of what we got. And we have formed all of our beliefs subconsciously from all the things that have happened to us over our life, all of the things that people have told us about ourselves, the things that have happened. And as human beings, we actually try and make that right. So if we have a belief that we are not good, I'm not good at speaking in public. I'm just not good at it because I have a memory of when I was in second class, I was humiliated in front of the class when I stood up in front of show and tell, and I froze and I couldn't speak, and all the kids laughed at me. And then in year 4, my teacher made me make a speech and I did really poorly at it, and I thought all the kids laughed at me when quite frankly they probably didn't. And it just goes on and on and on. We just keep building evidence for why we're not good at stuff. So if you want to change the way you're running your business, and particularly because this is what my sweet spot is the way that you brand yourself and the way you show up in front of your business and your personal brand, we really need to work on your self-belief. So I can teach you all the skills in the world, but I will be spending a lot of time working with you on your self-belief, because that is when we get real traction. And 21, the power of setting a goal. We often just go aimlessly through life without setting goals and wondering then when we get 10 years down the track, how the hell did we even get to this stage? And why didn't I get all those things that I think I wanted? It's because we never set a goal with actionable steps with each key markers along the way of how to get there. There's a really good saying by Tony Robbins, is that we greatly overestimate what we can do in one day. We greatly underestimate what we can do in 10 years. And I think about that with my bodybuilding. I just use that as an example because it's so recent. It took 2 years to get me onto a stage. Now, if I'd given up after 1 month, because I'd had a bit of, that first month, I dropped about 5 kilos. It was, probably 2 or 3 kilos. And I could see the changes happening. It was great. But then the next 6 months after that, the changes were really minimal. Really minimal. And because with bodybuilding, you actually keep weight on. My coach actually made me put on weight, which freaked me right out. But because you can't build muscle from thin air, so I needed to have a bit of weight on me to turn that into muscle. And then it took another year after that of more lifting before I started shredding that muscle down to actually then see the evidence of my muscles underneath. It's a 2-year process. So if I had expected instant results in 1 day or 7 days or 21 days, I'd be incredibly disappointed. I would have quit and never ever gotten my physique to this stage where I'm at now, which is, it's my physique is completely changed. For a 51-year-old woman, I have a completely different body shape to what most 51-year-old women have. And with minimal effort now, I'll be able to maintain this shape because of the 2 years that I've just put in. The same goes for your business. You put in the legs now in growing your audience, where you're building up your collateral and your content and your trust and being a real trusted advisor in your industry. You build up all that marketing material, over the next year or two and keep showing up with consistency. You will grow your audience and you will get that win. You will make those connections with the people that have the power to completely transform your business. But it's going to take more than a handful of efforts. And this is where patience comes into it, but this is where setting goals and having action steps really come into it. Number 22. This is the woo-woo bit. I believe that we are all walking on this journey at different stages of our spiritual growth. Some are old souls and we've been here a long time and very wise and moving through life with grace and ease and taking our learnings. Others of us are very new souls and we've got lots to learn. And then others of us, and I would put myself in this category, are just stubborn souls. And we've probably been around for a while, but there were some lessons that took a long time to learn. For me, really learning that to stop being so codependent and to look within for my self-validation and find that self-love and that self-approval, the self-esteem. I had tons of confidence. If you knew me a couple of years ago, you would have thought, Melissa's one of the most confident people I've ever met. I could stand on stages and sing to people. I could speak to hundreds and hundreds of people. I could speak to thousands of people. I had my own podcast. I had my own online course. I was running my own business. I've been supporting myself forever. Very confident. But I was coming from an ego state and I was always looking for external validation that I was good. Now I feel very different. I've been through a lot. I've moved through a lot. I've had a lot of growth and I've learned a lot. And I understand that it all comes from within. And that's where the true power is. I really believe my life is about to take off from this place. As will yours, I believe, if you really are prepared to do the work on yourself. Not just on your skill sets like we talked about before when it comes to marketing your business, but actually on what drives that, which is you, your self-awareness, your self-confidence, your self-esteem. We're here to learn, we're here to grow and expand, and we're here to share. And if you can do that from a really grounded, authentic place, people will be magnetized to you, people will feel you, and people will come along for the ride. And that will, just by the very nature of itself, manifest into material things as well, which is, I know, what drives a lot of people. But if that's not your main driver, if your main driver is actually the process and the growth, then it will definitely come. Okay, this is a long list, I know, but we're almost at the end. Number 23, shame. Ugh. Wow. I'm not even going to edit that out, because just saying the word shame, wow, still affects me. Shame is where my codependence came from. Like, and it can be so subtle. And we're raised, my generation, I'm 51, we were raised on shame. Don't do that. You know, what will they think of you? Don't let me down like that. Don't be a bad girl. Be a good girl. It's just, why did you do that? I'm so disappointed in you. All these things are shame. Oh, be a good example. This is the one I used to hear. Be a good girl. You're the oldest. You are the example to your younger sisters. Don't let me down. Don't disappoint me. You're my good one. This is all shame. And this is how people can control you, because you're always trying to get their external validation, and you want to get love externally, not from within. So understand what it is, what emotion has been driving you all of your life, so we can debunk it. We can come at it in your body from an energetic level and clear it. It's going to take some time. You can see I just had a physical reaction to even saying the word shame. But every time that happens, pardon me, and burping and coughing, all of that is part of the energy moving. It's releasing it. It's letting it go. It goes, it goes, goes. And with self-awareness, I can now recognize when somebody tries to shame me, to control me. And I had a partner that used to do that all the time. Then once I became really self-aware of it, the power of it was gone. Even though the memories are still there and some of the beliefs are still there because they're so deep, the power is gone. And when you can knock it on their head and you own yourself, and you recognize when somebody is quietly manipulating you in the way that they want to, then you have all the power. And it's incredible what you can do when you are running your own life and you're not letting something like shame run it for you. Number 24, intuition. We as humans, we're intuitive creatures, and we have this thing called a gut feel. Like, we have a thinking brain, which is here to support us and help us. And it's an amazing tool, but we don't have as many dangers now as we used to have. Back in the primitive days when we had real dangers, there were saber-toothed tigers, there were wolves, there were other people that were trying to attack us and get us. And, you know, it was a completely different era. Now we live in a more civilized kind of society. We don't have the same kind of things to fear. It is safer. So our brain actually goes into overdrive and creates situations that aren't good for us, where we overthink situations. And rather than trust our intuition and trust our gut and listen to our gut, we listen to our brain, and our brain can totally fuck us up. So really learning all about intuition and trusting our gut, which again is just self-love. When we love ourselves enough and go within, quieten our mind, do the meditation, do the journaling, just be present and in the moment, and switch off the racing brain, and just wait for the thoughts and the energy to drop in around the feelings, that gut feel. That is when we can have true power and mastery over our day and over our businesses and the decisions that need to be made that are good for us. Number 25, last but not least, personal development is an ongoing life journey. There are no shortcuts. You never ever get to the end destination. I think I said that earlier in the video. It is just ongoing, and it's a beautiful thing. Self-awareness is a beautiful thing. It's my favorite topic, as you can tell. I am a marketing and connection coach. I help people with their personal branding. I teach them the skills in creating content to build an audience, to build trust and authority. I teach them all the skills that they need to run effective programs, webinars, create videos, write blogs, have a beautiful sales page, all the things that you need to have to market your business. But the personal development side is where the real magic's at. If you are this amazing, untouched, perfect human being, you'll just master all this stuff over here quite easily. But we aren't those things. We are damaged, hurt, emotional creatures that have lived life, and it's like in the Shrek movie, like layers, onion layers. You know, we peel back all the layers to reveal the true core of who we are. But those layers are wrapped around us from our thinking brain to protect us. So we think. But really what it does is it limits us. So our brain is trying to protect us from feeling unsafe. And if we think feeling unsafe is actually speaking up authentically to an audience, being a trusted advisor, having the confidence to go out there and market our business and tell people about our business and share what we are doing and speak from the heart and pick up the phone and cold call somebody that you know is a really good contact for your business. If our thinking brain is stopping us from doing all of those activities because it wants us to feel safe, because it feels unsafe to go out on a limb and to maybe be criticized, and for somebody to maybe think that we think we're too big for our boots, particularly if you're Australian, and we all know the thing about tall poppy syndrome in Australia. That's what I can help you with too. The self-belief, the self-determination, the personal development. It never ever ends. It's always ongoing. And as you grow and expand, and I've got this has happened to many of my business friend clients as well. They've grown their businesses and they're now into like, $1 million businesses or more. I've got some friends that are just making colossal amounts of money in their companies. They get new sets of problems. The universe will throw new problems at them, and their personal development then is about expanding and figuring out how to now move and shake into those new world problems that they have. So that is a bit of a summary of where I've been for the past 18 months in particular, but really the past 5.5 years of massive growth, massive exploratory, massive self-awareness, and changing things around and really understanding the correlation between how our personal development and our business skills development work concurrently together. They're not individual or separate. They work together. One reveals the other. And that's where I think I can help you and work with you guys and get you into a sweet spot. I can give you the skills that you need to market yourself, but I can also give you the personal awareness and the development, unblock the energy, and guide you on the growth that you want to take to be the best that you can be and reach your full potential.